This is your host Steven. I'm here to talk about Marvel Legends, Toybiz and Hasbro, and this time it will be only ladies from X-Men comics. I have several of the characters and some variations and whatnot, but let's get on with it and let's see how far we get in this video. I will probably start with Jean Grey, who is also the love interest of Cyclops. And her earliest form would be this one right here. This is the first appearance of Jean Grey, the way she looked when she just joined the X-Men. She came in a big box set of Hasbro Marvel Legends that contains the early members, minus Professor X, who for some reason was not included. She came together with Beast, Cyclops, Angel, Iceman, and yeah, I already mentioned these, so yes, about 5 of them. Lots of people don't seem to like that particular set because they're complaining in regards to the sculpt and articulation, but I actually think they all came out rather nice. I don't really have any particular complaints about them, not that I can think of any. She looks rather nice, and I believe this is her younger version because the figure is quite smaller than your typical female figures, and she looks alright. I think the articulation is the usual stuff you get to see in most of the Marvel Legends in Toybiz era, and she looks pretty solid, that's all I'm going to say, all around. And compared to her old version, which probably wasn't the best one, but let's go with the Toybiz one that came way before Hasbro. It's this one right here. This is her in her Phoenix form, wearing the green costume, and this is the Phoenix flame that can be attached to the Toybiz version. This is how she looks like, sort of, I would say, an adult form, and everything looks okay in regards to her except for one thing. Her arms don't look very well because they're just way too spindly and skinny, and it gives you the impression they can easily break even if you move them just a tiny bit. But then again, there's a lot of saving graces. Her head came out looking very nice, and the hair sculpt and the body itself and the costume and the paint application doesn't look so bad either. It's rather neat. And anyway, I will put her side by side next to the first appearance one so that you can see. She's quite taller than the first appearance one. I'm assuming the one on the left being a teenage form and the one on the right is obviously an adult form. I have no idea what her age is when she was in the first appearance. Her name was Marvel Girl at that time. And a few years later, or actually to be more specific, last year, they released this version over here, which is also Jean Grey in her Phoenix form, but also in a green costume, but just a bit more updated. And the arm problem was fixed, and articulation is also changed a bit over the years, and the body sculpt is also quite different. She has very hard plastic sculpted hair, which probably particularly limits the movement of her head, but you can see the two of them side by side. They're roughly almost the same height. I would actually, oh, not quite. The one on the right here is a bit taller than the one on the left, but you can see that there is quite a bit of a difference in their looks. The one on the left has more of a look from the 1990s X-Men comics, and this one on the right, I would assume she looks more or less like this in the present day comics. Now, we could also try and see if the Phoenix Flame from Toybiz would fit on this version. I would assume maybe it would, but it would probably be very loose, but let's just try and see what happens. If it can be attached. And yes, it can. So, there you go. You can attach the flame of the Toybiz version of Jean Grey, or Phoenix that is, to the back of her, so it can be displayed like that as well. It seems to work rather well. It is a bit loose around the waist, but that's the same feeling you get when you put the flames onto the old version. So there you go. That would be as far as it goes with Phoenix and Marvel Girl. The next character we're going to talk about would be Rogue. Here we have the first version of Rogue from toybiz. She came in a box set of X-Men with Magneto, so she came together with Gambit and Beast and Wolverine and their enemy Magneto. This is not the best version of Rogue. The costume is definitely correct, nothing wrong with it, but her face, unfortunately, is not the best one. At that time, I believe toybiz had quite a bit of a problem molding female faces, and they were not able to always capture them very well. She really doesn't have a very good face, and it came out rather very odd looking. Also, her legs, the way she's able to do the split also looks very strange and unnatural, so that area was also not done very well. So the hips and the legs going sideways is also another thing that wasn't that great. She comes with the jacket, which I believe is a removable one, and her whole figure looks a little bit odd, at least for that time. But a few years later, toybiz tried their hand in Rogue one more time, and this figure came out looking a lot better. This is the Rogue from the X-Men Legends Classics that came out a few years later, with containing several versions of X-Men characters and their enemies. This Rogue here comes with removable glasses, which I will not remove here because they're so tiny they can easily get lost. And this kind of costume, I'm not sure when did she actually wear something like this, but I would assume it's just another interpretation of how she should look like. She does have her white locks of hair and all that, so you can really tell that it is her. But let's just put it side by side with the previous toybiz version, and you can almost tell that the one on the left is quite a bit of an improvement over the one on the right. And then we come to present day, where we have this particular Rogue who is wearing her classic costume and the leather jacket, and as you can tell, the face has been vastly improved upon. Her hands are shaped as fists, which is okay because most of the time she is fighting, and she came with an extra little hand which is without a glove and outstretched, so if you want to pose her that way. So yes, this is probably the best version out of the three, closely followed by the one with the sunglasses. So let's just show the two, and let's also show the two of them as well. So that would be Rogue, who is usually always associated with Gambit in the X-Men because they have a thing going on. And then we will move on to Storm, or by her real name, Aurora Monroe. Oh, I hope I got the name right. I have her figure in two versions. It's practically the same figure, just in two different colors, because she used to wear white, as in this one, and in some cases she would wear completely black. The one that's comes with the mohawk hairstyle, I do not have that one either from toybiz or Hasbro, because it's immensely difficult to come across that particular one. And when one does come across it, it costs horrendous amounts of money, which is not even worth it in the end. Now this is the classic version of Storm. She comes with this big rubber cape that's wrapped around her wrists. I don't think it can be removed, but of course it could be removed, but then you won't be able to put it back anymore. This particular Storm is from the toybiz era during the Marvel Legends X-Men Classics line. that was dealing with X-Men characters only. As you can tell, she has her long hair, which kind of impedes the movement of her head somewhat, or actually almost completely. She does have articulation, which is normal for that time period for the toybiz Marvel Legends. The cape is kind of getting in the way because it's attached and it cannot be removed unless you just cut it off. However, this other version is from the toybiz general Marvel Legends line, and it looks pretty much the same, except it's except she's wearing the black costume. So as you can tell, they're pretty much more or less the same figure, but with a difference in the color of the costume. It was just reused twice. Next on the menu would be Shylock, and this Shylock is not from Hasbro Legends. This one is from toybiz Marvel Legends, and she came in the Mojo wave, which is, if I remember correctly, wave 14, near the very end of the line, and she came out looking rather well. I do not have the one from Hasbro, so I won't be able to compare the two, but I think for the toybiz tryout, this didn't come out so bad, because I don't really see any imperfection on her compared to, let's say, the Rogue. She looks pretty well done, and nothing really wrong with her arms and hands, so I would say she's pretty good. The next one is from a Giant Man wave, which was done by toybiz, where you gotta build a figure of a Giant Man, classic version of Giant Man, in 12-inch size, would be Kitty Pryde, and this is the version done by toybiz. Of course, there is another version done by Hasbro, and I don't have that particular one, so yet again I won't be able to compare them, but I would say the same thing as I already mentioned in regards to Shylock. This one, the Kitty Pryde here is looking also very well done. I don't really see anything tremendously bad about the way she looks. There is maybe a slight complaint in regards to the way her hands were molded, but at that time toybiz was insisting on making hands that contain articulation in them, which was taken out years later when the new versions were made. But at that time you would expect to see that most of the figures have articulated palms of the hands. But other than that, I think she looks pretty well. Next in line we have White Queen. This version was done by Hasbro when they just took over the license of producing Marvel Legends, and she came in the first wave together with certain other characters such as Planet Hulk and a few other ones. There is also a variant of her, which would be the Black Queen, and the Black Queen is practically the same sculpt, except the head is different with shorter hair, and this particular one the fans did not like. They were not impressed, especially with her face, the way it came out. I wouldn't really complain much about the face, because I think this was okay, all things considered. What I do find a little bit annoying is her bony wrists that look really badly done, because it looks like there is a huge bone sticking out of her wrists, or it looks like she's anorexic, either or. But other than that, I really wouldn't say there is a whole lot wrong, so only the wrists, as far as I'm concerned. The wrists really look bad and bony. Her other version, the Black Queen, looks perfect, because that one is looking really nice face-wise and otherwise, but I'll talk more about her in the other video where I will be covering the ladies who fight against the X-Men. I have a few of those, and the Black Queen is one of them. And the final character, as far as this group goes, that I have here, would be the X-23. Most of you are probably familiar with her due to the fact that she's been shown in her younger form in the Wolverine Part 3 movie that just came out, and this is how she looks in the comics from back in the day, and this was done by toybiz. And this is the better version because there is one more figure like this of her. The other one was done with a very bloated face and it looks pretty ugly, but this one was done in a much better way, and this is considered a variant between the two, the one that's harder to find. And she came out rather well. Her face is not swollen or bloated, and I would say she looks pretty good. The way she looks in today's comics, however, is nothing like this. She is actually wearing a type of costume that's exactly the same as Wolverine's, which practically makes sense in a way. What I would say is that that version where she's wearing a Wolverine's costume did not see the light of day in Marvel Legends form just yet, but maybe in due time I'm expecting to see her being released. However, this is not the very first version of her that was ever shown. The very first version of her would be her wearing the actual Wolverine's costume, and it would be from a series called The Wild. It would be from the series called Famous Covers. Those would be the 4.5 to about 5-inch tall Marvel figures from the toybiz era of the 1990s, and one of the characters was Wild Thing. Wild Thing is practically, according to an imaginary story, a daughter of Wolverine, which I believe is just an early form of X-23 in a way. The comic book experts can correct me on this, but that particular version would be the very first version of the character. And then after Wild Thing came this one, together with the regular version that I already described, the swollen face one, and we're yet to see the updated version in present day. So anyway, with this one, here I would conclude the story of the X-Men ladies. I do appreciate you guys watching my video, and if you like, you can subscribe and leave some comments or thoughts about all this, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.